Live from Houston, Texas, a show for local business owners. This is Business Houston Podcast. If you're a small or medium-sized business, this is your source for trends, interviews, and tips for winning in today's economic climate. Presented by the BBB for Greater Houston and South Texas. You're listening to Business Houston, and this is your host, Matt Bertram.
All right. Hello. Welcome to Business Houston Podcast. My name is Matt Bertram. I'm your host, and I have with me today Scott with TPO Pros Roofing and Restoration. Scott, how are you doing today?
Good, Matt. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it looks like you have a podcast yourself, a podcast host, The Motivation Story. Yeah?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the shout out to The Motivation Story. That's my little way of trying to help give back to the community. I was sitting around one day thinking that I wasn't doing enough for people in order to serve. And the first thing I came up was, well, let's help people share their stories with the world that maybe haven't had the chance. So that's where the idea came from.
I love that. So Scott, tell us a little bit about like how you got into the roofing business and what TPO does.
Yeah, so TPO Pros Roofing, we are primarily a commercial roofing company. Although we do a lot of residential due to referrals, just because people have been satisfied with our work. But yeah, I got into the roofing industry. I worked for a contractor out of college for a while, and being up on so many different rooftops, I started seeing a lot of really, and I hate to say this, but a really shoddy work being done. More and more time, and again, I'd get up on roofs, and people had just hired contractors, and I'd just see the most off the wall stuff, things to where like somebody would put a vent on a roof, but they wouldn't cut the hole for it to actually vent, right? And I hated the feeling of people continuously just not getting the quality of work that they deserve. So that's why I decided to start my own company.
Oh, I love that. And so, roofing, right? There's kind of two, I get major categories, and maybe, there's probably a ton of subcategories, but typically residential and commercial roofing. And can maybe you explain a little bit more about how those are different and the skill sets needed for each?
Yeah, no, I actually really appreciate that question so much. Residential roofing and commercial roofing are two totally different animals. Typically residential roofers are really good at doing residential roofs. That's what they do every day. Most of them are insurance work, right? So, here in Houston and Texas, there's tons of storms, storm damage to roofs, and there's a lot of companies rebuilding that, in the residential area. Commercial roofing, there's low slope roofing, there's metal, there's shingles, there's foam, there's coatings. I mean, it just, the list goes on and on and on. And it takes really specialized people to know how to install or, repair accurately different roofing systems.
I think that's fantastic. I know metal roofs been a big kind of craze lately, and they last a long time. And that's fantastic. So tell me a little bit about, I guess, your ideal customer and kind of the geographic area that you typically serve, Houston surrounding area, that sort of thing. So
we're primarily Houston based, in the surrounding areas out to Galveston or up and down the coast. We're expanding into other areas in Texas within the next year or two, primarily because it's just, like you said, there's a fun fact, metal roofs. I think we have the largest concentration of metal roofs in the country within our geographical area. So there's metal roofs everywhere. But a perfect customer for us is let's say a commercial property manager, commercial realtors, building owners, investors, mostly people that just want to take care of their property. There's a lot of contractors out there that just want to go straight for the roof replacement. And more times than not, you don't need to have that sort of huge expense. And there's a lot of repair options that can be done to save people money. So we look to partner with usually property managers is a good one for us.
Yeah, so I pulled up your website here so everybody can see it. I think you have a great little website here. Tell me, is there any areas of the website when people come to tpopros.com they should like navigate to, or is there anything you want to highlight about your website and what you do?
If you just want to scroll to the commercial tab, just down a little bit, yeah, hit that. And then just scroll down a little ways. These are some of the roofing materials that we specialize in. I know we have residential on there, and like I said, mainly that's for referral customers. But our niche is TPO roofing, which only goes on flat roofs. So if it's TPO and some of these other things that we can do, but multifamily buildings, industrial buildings. We have shingles, coatings. Coatings is really big right now. That's growing rapidly. Essentially a coating, and not to bore you with roofing types, but it's a way to put an additional protection onto an existing roof, basically maintaining the roof underneath. Saves you a bunch of money.
Wow, you got some great pictures here of jobs that you've done.
Yep.
So yeah, if you're looking for commercial roofing, come check it out. Look at some of the jobs. Is there any kind of jobs that you can highlight and share that might be noteworthy?
We're finishing up some condominiums right now outside of medical center. Okay. It's a fairly large project, and interestingly enough, we got brought into this project because another contractor was kicked off of it halfway through the job. So I'm not going to bash any other contractors, but we get a lot of jobs through that. Interestingly enough.
Yeah, well, you try to find somebody, and maybe you try to save some money, and then you realize you're not saving some money, and you go with somebody that you know is going to do it right. So I think that's incredibly important. So tell me a little bit, how has COVID affected the commercial roofing business? That's not something I've actually even heard about, so I'm very interested to hear what you have to say.
So it depends on a few different factors. So there's new construction, and then there's re-roofing, right? So we don't really get into the new construction very much. It's more of a specialized field. You need to have tons of capital based off of pay schedules, and the margins can be a little lower. But we do a lot of retail re-roofing, and honestly, it hasn't really slowed down that much. Houston, we get a ton of rain all the time. We had the freeze, there's hurricanes, there's hail, there's wind. So we've been staying pretty busy.
Well, that's fantastic. So, you talked a little bit about how you got called in on this last job over in the medical center, the condominiums. Really having that expertise and that trustworthiness in the space, I think, is really, really important. Can you talk about maybe some of the differentiators of your business, maybe some of the other commercial roofers, and also maybe what the Better Business Bureau means to you?
Yeah, sure. So that the BBB and the Better Business Bureau, that actually ties into one of the differentiators between us and other roofers. And there's plenty of roofers on the BBB, and I definitely think that every roofing company should be. The BBB stands for trust, right? So it's just a nationwide fact for contractors and businesses alike. The BBB, and if you're accredited with the BBB, that's just a no-brainer. Many people trust that, as we do, and we appreciate being on the BBB. So as far as some other differentiators between us and some other companies, I'd really look at the online presence, right? So. And that's kind of where the BBB pops up. You want them to have an online presence. You need to look at their reviews. You need to look at this. Do they have videos? Do they have photos? What's being said about the company that's to be doing work on your roof? I think that aside from certifications through the manufacturer, a list of referrals, having the correct insurances, there's too much to list on what goes into actually having a legit professional company, and it's not that companies are bad. It's just, construction projects can be really big and really complicated, and there's a lot of moving parts. And it's not necessarily when things are going to go wrong, or it's it's because stuff will go wrong on a build, right? Like that's almost inevitable. Things are going to happen. It's how is that contractor going to handle the problem, and how are they going to make it right? I think that's one of the big differentiators, at least between us and some of the other companies out there.
No, absolutely. And so, okay, so if there's somebody that's considering redoing their commercial roof out there, I mean, what are some of the, maybe a tip or something you've learned over the years that you think is important that you want to communicate to them as they're going through that process?
I think that, so there's multiple different ways to fix a problem. There's a cheap way and then there's the right way, right? So, I'd like to let the building owners and anybody that's out searching for a roofing contractor know that just keep that in mind. Please don't price shop. I know that construction can be expensive, especially these days, right? Costs have been rising and things are in a challenging time. But cheaper isn't always better. And if you can have somebody like actually walk you through the process and why we should be doing these steps, right? You'd be amazed at how many people and contractors, they'll issue bids that don't bring roofs back up to code, right? Or they won't pull permits, or they won't, they'll never issue the warranty after the roof's completed because they weren't certified through the manufacturer, right? But the customer never knows these things when you're hiring somebody. So that's why I said having an online presence, being with the BBB, the Better Business Bureau. I mean, these sorts of things can help you earn trust when you're deciding a contractor.
No, absolutely. No, Scott, thank you so much for sharing and enlightening us on some of the aspects and things to consider in the commercial roofing space. So, Scott, okay, so TPOpros.com is your website. And, how, if someone wants to find out more information or get in touch with you, what's the best way?
Just head to the website. Like he said, TPOpros.com. You can give us a call anytime at 800-674-3634. Also check me out at the Motivation Story podcast.
Yeah, no, I love that. All right. So Scott, all right. Anything else we didn't cover? Anything that you want to share, leaving parting words?
No, you pretty much went over everything. I would say this for one thing, everybody should be a part of the Better Business Bureau. We appreciate what you guys do for the industry and for consumers, and then customers and people that are shopping. Please just always do your due diligence before you spend a lot of money with somebody.
Well, fantastic. We'll just stay on until the end of the trailer. All right. So
thanks so much for listening. Business Houston puts a spotlight on local small and medium-sized business, interviewing those successful business owners in Houston and those business owners that are winning in today's economic climate. Business Houston is presented to you by the BBB of Greater Houston and South Texas. Make sure to like, rate, and review the show. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at Hugh Biz Podcast. That's HOU Biz Podcast. Until next time, this is Business Houston.